Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about a pretty big feature that's coming in the next expansion, The War Within, called Warbands, and of course my thoughts on the Warbands and their features. So I have two different things up here. I have a Wowhead article, which basically pulls some screen grabs from the video that I also have up, but they did not have this image up for their thing, so I have the video up as well, just mostly to show this image because I think it's really cool and it really highlights how cool warbands are. So we can go ahead and just look at that image first. Here, let me get this out of the way. And we can look over here, and what we see is a new character selection screen, right? So just off the top, the one really cool thing about warbands is basically you don't have to choose your realm anymore. All your characters, you don't have to switch realm to go to an alt that's on a different realm, if that's the case. Now, most of my main characters are on the same realm, but this is a big deal for a lot of people. And you kind of create your warband, and that warband that you select is on your screen or whatever. And, it just kind of looks cooler, right? You have this warband, and then you choose which character you actually want to log in. And yeah, it's kind of cool. And we'll explain, of course, what warbands do and what they share and stuff like that as we go on in the video, but just wanted to kind of show this image first because it's really cool. It's a new character screen. I know I think it's Lost Ark that does this. Maybe other things do this as well, where they have the screen showing multiple of your characters and stuff. So I think even customizing this page even more would be cool. I don't know if that's within WoW's coding limits or whatever, but yeah, this is just a really neat thing. One thing I want to mention too while I have this up is they have 4 people in their warband. I went and rewatched just to make sure, and they do not mention in the video how many you can have in a warband. So is the max 4 per warband? Is it higher per warband? I do not know that. As far as I know, that hasn't been released yet. Maybe that's something they're still working on. Even if it is 4, that's not to say that someday it couldn't be 6 or 8 or whatever. Maybe they just have some restrictions for now as they get it sorted out. Maybe it's 4 now and it'll be 6 by the time it releases. I have no idea. But right now, the only thing I can go by is this image, and it appears to be 4 in a warband. And I hope that hopefully they expand that out to 6 or 8 in the future if it's not already, right? I don't want anybody to get mad. It could already be 6 or 8. I have no idea. But right now, it is important to note that at least in this image, there are 4. And yeah. Let's talk about what warbands are, what they can share now that we kind of have a look at what warbands look like. So warbands can share everything, basically, account-wide everything. And so one thing that they can share is a bank. So you can see this bank tab kind of looks like a guild bank, right? So this is your warband bank. So your warbands have a bank that I assume is separate from your normal character bank. So you have your character bank, a guild vault, I assume still exists for your guild. And then I'm assuming will then also have a warband bank. Maybe that's another, clickable thing on the opposite side of the guild vault or something like that, right? And so you have a warband bank. It looks like you can get different tabs for it. I don't know how many, of course. Maybe you can purchase more and more tabs, unlock them. I have no idea how, but that's really, really cool. And something important too that's not mentioned here, I don't think in this article. Maybe it is, but you can actually, so let's say you're doing crafting, right? So this is a big one. So they've changed it recently in World of Warcraft to where you can craft with materials in your bank. You don't have to have them in your bag. Now with the Warband Bank, you can actually craft materials from your Warband Bank. So if you are doing your warband because you have multiple different crafters or whatever, like a blacksmith, miner, and then you have a tailor, enchanter, blah blah blah, right? You can kind of just put all of your mats into this bank, and then no matter what you're crafting or what you need done, like work orders, for example, too, like if you're sending out a work order, you can actually pull mats from your bank, which I think is really, really cool. It's actually always stopped me from really holding important materials on my alts because, at the end of the day, if I need an important material, it's probably going to be on my main character. And so this makes it really easy. If I get an important material, I'm just going to go put it into my warband bank and not worry about it. And of course, you can access this bank on any of the characters that you log into as well. So it's also the same thing as instant mail right? You could put something in the bank, log on another character, and take it out. So it also works as mail as well in that way. So here's the bank, bank tabs, and more coming. They don't mention the pulling things out of it, but yeah. Oh, so wait, it looks like it's a tab on your bank, maybe. So you have bank, and then you have Warband Bank. So it looks like it's just another tab, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool way to do it. Instead of having to have another, interface thing. There's also Warband Items, right? So the way this is explained, Warbound until equipped, right? So basically, when you're doing content, he didn't say what all content it would be, or if it would be for all content or not, right? Because this the big thing he did specify, Ian did the presentation here, and the big thing he did specify is he does not want this to be like in Lost Ark. You feel like you have to play a bunch of alts to funnel, if you're playing like free to play, to funnel gear to your main character and stuff like that, and like materials. That's not the case here. This gear that you're going to get is always going to be lower than the content you're doing. So it's not going to make sense to run heroic raid on your alt, because you're not going to be funneling heroic gear to your main. You're going to be getting like normal gear, right? It's going to be a step down of whatever content you're doing. But that does mean, in theory, let's say it drops, I'm a mythic raider. Let's say mythic raid can drop this warbound gear. In theory, I could then send like a heroic piece to my alt, which would be very valuable for me because I don't play very hardcore on my alts. So it could be quite valuable to do that. It also just means that you only have to play one character seriously, and all your other characters can still kind of do the rest of the game without having to worry about playing seriously, which is also just really, really cool. Again, you can probably send this in the mail. You can also just put it into your little Warband bank or whatever. And the way this loot works is it drops as personal loot. That's like, it's like a chance to drop personal loot on top of any other loot. Like, it's not going to take away your normal loot, right? So let's say you open up a Mythic Plus box and you get a Warbound piece. It's not in place of another piece of gear. It's a proc chance. It's like a bonus roll, if you will, right? And so that's how that works. I think this is really, really cool. For me, it's huge. I imagine for a lot of players, even though I do higher end content, right? I play my alts like a complete casual, complete, whatever, not sweaty at all player. And so, maybe on your main, instead of doing mythic raid, you do normal raid, or maybe you step into heroic raid, or maybe you do like mid-level keys or whatever, right? And on your main character, you do some of that. Well, you have a chance to get, but then on your alts, you're like me and don't do anything. You still are getting some upgraded gear for your alts by doing this, right? And so for me, it's really, really cool. I imagine for a lot of players, it's really, really cool. Whenever I do a video about casual content, usually, I have a smaller channel, obviously, and usually gets quite a few views for me. And so I think a lot of people are interested in this casual content. And like I said, I'm a sweaty player on my main character, but I'm extremely casual on all my alts, basically. So really huge for me. More things, reputation. So we'll talk about reputation first. So reputation, starting with this expansion, War Within, all your reputation, so renown is kind of how they do reputation now, right? All your renown will be shared throughout your characters. So in Dragonflight, they took a step towards this to where once you got to 10 on your ults, the catch up to 10 was really fast. And once you got to 20, the catch up was really fast, right? And so that's kind of how they did it with Dragonflight, where you had catch up renown. But now there's like, okay, it's just too much. So now all your renown is going to be shared. They are going to work on going backwards on this as well. Starting with Dragonflight, it's just from like a fundamental like coding standpoint, like of going back through and re-engineering it. But they're going to go back and do Dragonflight renown as well. So if you've maxed out renown on your main character, all your alts are going to have access to it as well going forward in the future, not in this expansion. Not in Dragonflight, I mean, right? This current expansion. And then I imagine they'll probably do Shadowlands as well. And this is for renown reputation, I think specifically. I don't think it's going to be like all your reputations are just going to be full on your old school reputation tabs. I think this is specifically for the renown system. But there is an achievement thing later that could play into the old reputations. Another big one that got a lot of applause is the transmog. So collecting transmog, now you can do that on any character. So if I run, he uses Oldor as an example, so I will. Ian does. So here's Ian right here in this screen grab. if I run on my paladin, right, but I get like some really cool leather shoulders or some really cool staff, because paladins can't use staves, I can now get that transmog even though I can't equip it. And now when I log onto my mage, I now have that transmog staff, available to do. So it saves you from having to run. This is a big thing with me because it's kind of funny. So on my alt, I usually only have like one alt at a time who has like their bags cleared out to go run stuff like for transmog or whatever. And so I'm at the mercy of whatever character that happens to be. Right now happens to be my mage, actually, who has free bag space, and like where I just completely clean out the bags, right? Just full bag space to go collect old crap. And so I have it on my mage. And so, if a plate thing or a mail thing drops that I really like, and that's the other thing too, I actually don't have a lot of male transmogs because I've never mained a male class before in any meaningful way. So mostly hunter shaman traditionally, right? I've never mained a hunter at all, and I played a shaman a bit in Cataclysm, but not too much. So any transmog for male I had was probably like from Cataclysm, right? And so this is a big for me. Just in even collecting like the male transmogs. For one thing, I actually have a 6-year-old son who plays the game, and he plays a hunter, and so he'll have some more options. Our accounts are connected or whatever, and so when I get a transmog, he gets a transmog, and so it'll be kind of cool in that way. Another thing, not a huge one, but flight paths are now available for anything that's Warbound. So, and if you have the flight path unlocked, this has come up for me a couple times in Dragonflight, because I do have all the flight paths on my main character. But because I already had dragon flying already unlocked fully and everything on my alts, I never bothered grabbing the flight paths on my alts. And sometimes, since you can't do the normal slow AFK flying in Dragonlands, in Dragon Isles, sometimes, like, let's say I have to go to the bathroom, I need to get a drink, or I need to go do something else, I will actually just take a flight path across all the Dragon Isles on my main character, but I haven't actually been able to do that on my alts, which has been terrible. So it's actually kind of nice to unlock all flight paths, even though it doesn't seem like a big deal. There are things, if you're a type of person who has to get up and do things like while you're flying and stuff, it actually kind of can be pretty cool. Another thing is achievements. So achievements is they're going to be Warband bound too. So like if you need an achievement to do something or access something, you will then have that achievement on the alt character as well. And I believe achievements will now be, because there's some achievements that are already like account bound, where you can complete them from any character on the account, like honorable kills, for example. That's any character on your account contributes to your honorable kills. All achievements I believe are basically going to work like that going forward. I don't know how much they're going to be able to like backfill that on, but achievements going forward you'll be able to work on with your warband together, right? So let's say a Halloween achievement of trick-or-treating in every place. In theory, you could trick-or-treat at one on each of your, or like 2 on each of the Dragon Isles ones, right? There's an achievement for trick-or-treating in the Dragon Isles, and you could trick-or-treat on 2 of them on each of your warband characters, and then you would get the achievement in theory. That's how I believe it works. And then the last thing is Delves. So Delves is a new system. I probably will do a video on Delves because I'm actually pretty hyped about Delves. So if you don't know too much about Delves, that's okay. Like I said, I think that'll probably be the next video I put out, maybe even tomorrow, will be on Delves, because I'm super excited about it. But Delves are basically like mini dungeons that are solo content-able. So imagine islands. Islands weren't technically solo because you queued with group, I think, like into a group finder. But like scenarios, Torghast, Visions of N'Zoth, all those kinds of things, right? All those solo content things, and now they've what he said basically is we've tried to learn from all those things and we've made one. Now don't worry, he also mentions this is not Torghast. You do not have to do it. There's not Soul Ash. This is an opportunity for solo players to have an end game path, right? So if you only play solo, you now have solo dungeon to do that. It scales up in difficulty, and you can do it at a harder difficulty. And it does not scale up quite as much as Mythic Plus, because group content, and I believe this is fair, group content is going to be harder because you have to coordinate a group, right? But he did say like up to like heroic raid loot from this, right? So basically AOTC level loot from solo content, which is huge, and I think that's about where it should stay. I don't think you should necessarily get mythic raid loot from solo content, especially because it's so hard to group 20 people together to do a mythic raid. But this is really good. I mentioned I already have a son. I mentioned already that I have a son. I'm looking forward to doing this with him as a 2-man group. Where I will be mostly carrying, but this will be a very, very fun activity for us, I imagine, and allow him to get some cool gear and let him feel powerful in the open world, which is where he spends his time, of course, as he is just a child. But yeah, I'm super excited about this, and the way that this is account bound. So I gave you a little bit about delves. The way this is account bound is you have progress on your delve. So they made it seem like each season you might have a different companion, but in the first companion you're going to have Bran Bronzebeard, and he's going to get buffed basically as you do more delves, right? He's gonna basically level up, right? The more delves you do, he's going to get powerful, just like the Torghast talents, right? Eventually you get all the Torghast talents. Eventually you get Bran all the way leveled up, and he helps you out more and more and more, and he's like your ally. And they might change the ally in next season or next expansion, whatever. But delves are supposed to be a feature that continue on as well. But again, we'll talk about more about delves in a video. If you can't tell, I'm super excited about them. But yeah, so your progress on delves. So if you have your brand maxed out on your main, you're also going to have it maxed out on the other characters on your warband. So you might max out on your main right away, and then you go on your ult, and then oh look, my delves are already ready to go at full power, even though I'm just starting out. And that's really cool as well. They don't think there's any point of doing it twice, and I totally agree with that. This is huge. This is good. Pretty much all this is a W, a win, whatever. Maybe they could add more to it that I'm not even thinking of right now. But right now I'm just so flooded in W's from this BlizzCon that I don't know what to think. But Warbands is probably one of my #1 things. And like I said, next video will probably be about delves in particular. But yeah, Warbands, hugely looking forward to this. Hopefully everyone else is too, because this is really cool. This is a long time coming for World of Warcraft, and I love that they're doing these things on a big engineering scale that they really haven't had time to do, while Activision has had their boot on their necks and forcing them to make a game a certain way. It looks like they're now just fully making the game like kind of what the players want finally. And Ian mentions this in his presentation multiple times. And if you don't think that there's a correlation between Mr. Kotick leaving the company soon and them making the game the way players want, then you need to probably rethink that, because I think there's a huge correlation between those two things. So Warbands are a huge win. That's it for this one, though. As always, I do ask you to please subscribe to the channel. It helps me out so much. Other than that, everybody have a good one.